friends, welcome back to my channel. My name is Taylor, and let's talk about the absolutely massive stack of books that I have currently on my lap. It's time for me to review my first half of the reading year for 2022. What the heck? Okay, so let's talk about my reading year so far. Up to this point, I've read about 40 books, I think, give or take a few, which is pretty good for me. I will say this reading year for me has kind of been all over the place, and I've definitely not been reading as much as I would like. I'm feeling just a bit slumpy, so that's not too fun, but I've really enjoyed a lot of the things that I've read, so let's talk about it. First of all, let's start with the first question, which of course all these questions I'll try and link below in the description of this video if you guys want to do the tag yourself. But so far the favorite thing, sorry, I've got like a stack of books like all over the place. My favorite thing I've read so far this year, I think, has to be Daughter of the Moon Goddess by Sue Lynn Tan. This was a huge surprise to me, which I think is another question further down in this tag, but I didn't know really what to expect going into this book, and I really enjoyed it. It's such a big book, but I liked it in the sense that it's so immersive. Like, you sit in this world for about 500 pages, I think. Yeah, about 500 pages, and I really enjoyed it. I read it a lot more quickly than I thought I would. I think the cover of this is beautiful. The characters in this are great. And I'm so excited for the sequel. So yeah, definitely highly recommend this one if you guys haven't checked it out yet. Speaking of sequels, my favorite sequel that I've read so far this year is, of course, Skyborn: Call of the Crow by Jessica Cowherly. I'm very excited for the third and final book in this series. It took me a minute to get into this one, but once I read it, it just builds upon the story so well, and I just love this. This is a middle grade series that follows a world in which people have wings and are essentially factioned into different types of birds, if that makes sense, like different clans. Can't go too much into this one without spoiling the first one, but I did really enjoy this. I really liked the characters in it. They're some of my favorites that I've read, and yeah, I'm just really excited for the third one in the series, and I really wish the series was longer. I actually messaged the author on Instagram, was asking how long the series is going to be. It is just going to be a trilogy, which I'm a little sad about, so I do hope that it continues. Okay, next, favorite reread for the year. I think I'm gonna go with one that I did for middle grade March, and that is Freak the Mighty. I remember this being so hard-hitting from when I was a kid and read this, and it's definitely still dark. Like, it's a dark book, but I really enjoyed it. It's just one of those books that like snuck up on me with things that I remembered as I was reading it, and just, this is why I do my rereads for middle grade March, is it just brings me back to that very warm and happy place of reading books from when I was a kid, and I really enjoyed it, so highly recommend. Okay, so I know this challenge tag has been expanded upon a little bit because I know Books and Lala recently did this and asked a question of what's your favorite genre, or what have you been reading the most of? To be honest, as with most years, I'm kind of all over the place. I read a lot of fantasy. I've read or have been reading a lot of graphic novels over the last couple of years. I don't read a lot of romance. That's kind of the one that I've steered clear of for the past few years for a few different reasons. There's just something about it that's just not really appealing to me right now. Other than, I will say, the exception of my read of the Bridgerton series, which was a great time. So I will say that this was a nice kind of divergent into that. So maybe more historical romance is something I can look at getting into. But yeah, these were just overall a really fun time to get into. Okay, let's shift gears a little bit and now talk about some new releases that I haven't gotten to yet, but I'm excited to. Quick flash up on the screen. Ruta Sepetys, I'm very behind in her releases, but this is I Must Betray You, which I think follows Romania in 1989. Very excited. I've loved every single one of her books. They're heart-wrenching but beautiful, and I'm very excited to get to this. I also need to read the one she came out with a few years ago or last year. It's got a yellow cover, but I can't remember what that one's called, but that one as well too. But new release for this one for sure. I also need to read Family of Liars, which I know has gotten pretty mixed reviews. I loved We Were Liars by her, so I'm very excited. Her books for me are a bit hit or miss because they're very unique in their writing style, but I am excited about this one. I think it will be a pretty good quick read because her other one was as well, so need to get to this one. Also, a couple just random ones. I want to read Bravely by Maggie Stiefvater. This is a retelling or a continuation, I think, of Brave, which is, you know, Bravely. Obviously, the cover art of this is stunning, and I love Maggie Stiefvater, so I just need to get to this one as well. My other one that I'm dying to get to is my new favorite author, Kelly Barnhill, which is When Women Were Dragons. This is, I think, her first adult novel. I'm very excited to read this. I love her writing style so much, so I'm thrilled about this as well. Okay, and a new release that you were excited for but aren't so sure about now, the one that I'm like wavering on, I'm still going to read it for sure, is An Arrow to the Moon, only because the reviews of this have not been as great as The Astonishing Color of After, which I still also need to read. So I do plan on reading that before this one, but this is one I did pick up and want to read, but I know the reviews for this have been a little bit more mixed or not as positive as her first or that book, so we'll see when I end up getting to this one. Okay, next question is most anticipated release for the second half of the year. I have to go with the sequel, Heart of a Sun Warrior, which is the sequel by Sue Lin Tan to Daughter of the Moon Goddess. I'm very excited about this, and I'm very excited I don't have to wait forever for this to come out, but that's definitely top of my list for the second half of the year. I tend to not get as many books in the second half of the year just because most of the releases I feel like tend to come out at the beginning of the year. I just tend to not find out about as many releases for the second half. So if there's something exciting you guys are looking forward to for the second half of the year, let me know down in the comments below. Okay, now let's talk about something not quite so fun. Biggest disappointment for the year so far. So I have two that came to mind. Most of the books, if you guys haven't watched my like quarterly wrap-ups, I tend to get rid of the stuff that just like is sitting on my shelves that like is kind of an immediate no. So I actually don't even have any of those books here to discuss, but the ones two that I do have that I would say were like, yeah, disappointments are probably The Ogress and the Orphan by Kelly Barnhill and The Keeper of Lost Things by Ruth Hogan. Both of these, for whatever reason, I just expected a lot more from Kelly Barnhill, even regardless. Her writing style, I adore. This was just a really slow book. There was just not too much that happened. It's a pretty thick book, and I just wanted more. And I know her books are kind of that slow build, big reveal at the end, but I saw so much of it coming from pretty much the very beginning that it just by the time it happened, I was like, okay. Again, I still love her writing, and I'm excited, like I said, to read her other books that are coming out, but this just didn't quite do it for me. And the other one is more an object of execution as well. This is Keeper of the Lost Things by Ruth Hogan. This is a story about a woman who ends up taking over a man's house, and he has a lot of items that he's found over the years that he wants, that he's found that are just like lost things, like buttons and puzzle pieces and like things that no one really would miss or notice. But he does it in an attempt to find an item that he lost many years ago. And again, same with this, the theory and the concept of this, I have loved. Execution, again, it just was very, very slow, and by the time things kind of happened or got to a point where I wanted them to, I just wasn't as invested anymore. So that's kind of my issue with this one as well too, unfortunately. Okay, so let's talk about fun things. Biggest surprise. So as you guys know, like I mentioned, I've kind of been getting into graphic novels over the last few years for the first time that I've really enjoyed. And this kind of snuck out of nowhere, and I'm very obsessed, and I finally actually just got the second volume in the series, so I'm thrilled to be reading that as well as soon as possible. But this is, of course, Lore Olympus Volume 1 by Rachel Smith? I think it's Smith. And I was obsessed with this. The art style is beautiful. I just think it's very cute, and it's like a modern twist on Hades and Persephone, which I've learned I really enjoy, a Hades and Persephone retelling. I did read another graphic novel, if you guys have seen my wrap-ups, earlier in the year, which was also really cute and kind of more of like a modern day version of the Hades and Persephone retelling, but this, for whatever reason, I just really enjoyed. I actually want to reread this one before I read volume 2, just to kind of give myself a bit of a refresher. But yeah, I really enjoyed this. I love a good Greek retelling, and highly recommend if you guys haven't checked this out, which I think most people have at this point. Okay, not to beat a dead horse, favorite new author, Sue Lin Tan. Love her, reasons already explained. And then we'll again circle back to Lore of Olympus with Rachel Smith. It's hard for me, not hard, but every once in a while I find a graphic novel that I just like click with, and this is that. So gonna read most of her things for sure. Okay, now let's talk about favorite fictional characters and crushes. And for that, I'm giving you a 2-for-1 special with To Sir Philip with Love by Julia Quinn. Again, another new now favorite author as well. Actually, I loved the dynamic of this. There's actually several couples in the Bridgerton world that I was really obsessed with. Anthony and Kate, several of them that I was like very invested in. Who's the other? Francesca, Hyacinth and Gareth. I just loved all of them. Gregory and Lucy, Michael and Francesca. If you know, you know. Obsessed, love them. But these two, for whatever reason, my little heart just holds on to because of the dynamic with the children and just the aspect. And this was where I just feel like the whole series took a turn for me, where I really started enjoying it, and it just was building and building on the world. And the like steaminess started coming in with this. It just all was great. I really enjoyed it. I really liked the dynamic of both of these characters. I love Eloise as a character in the show as well. And yeah, I just really liked it. It was great. Highly recommend. 10 out of 10. Chef's kiss. All right, now we'll talk about the emotional side of things. Books that made me cry and books that made me happy. Books that made me happy and books that kind of made me like emotionally invested. Like, I was invested in this story. Like, I really, really was. Like, there's a lot of moments with this where I was like, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. And I just, again, I love the characters in this. I love the story. Again, these are actually probably some of my favorite characters as well, between Ellie and Knox. I just think they're such a cute dynamic, and I almost wish this was written for a little bit older of an audience, just because I think like the tension you could create between those two characters would be fantastic. But it's middle grade and that's a little inappropriate, so we'll leave it where it is. But I don't know, there's just something in this world that I just am so drawn to. It made me happy, it made me sad. Again, I don't think I've cried in a book reading it this year that I can think of. But yeah, this just is a series that just makes me happy to read. I just enjoy reading this. It's great. Please read it. Okay, now let's talk about beautiful books. The most beautiful, hands down, no question, book that I've bought myself this year is the UK edition of The Girl Who Fell Beneath the Sea by Axie O. I'm about halfway through this book right now currently. Really, really enjoying it. It reads just like a Hayao Miyazaki movie, like Howl's Moving Castle vibes, 1000%, and I'm really, really liking it. But this is just, it's so pretty. It's so pretty, and I'm very much enjoying it. But this is one that we're currently in the middle of right now, but I think no question, I just look at this and it makes me so happy. Now let's talk about, to end up and wrap up this fun tag, let's talk about the books that I need to read. There's so many. Too many books, too little time. Pretty much anything on this shelf could be read. This obviously is my unread shelf, as you guys know if you've seen any of my book room videos. Let's talk about The King of Scars, Rule of Wolves. Let's talk about The Subtle Art of Not Giving an F, Circe. Let's talk about They Both Die at the End, The Life of Pi. Yeah, the Scary Stories for Young Foxes, The City, which is the sequel to Scary Stories for Young Foxes that I read last year. I'm saving this for Halloween, along with Frankenstein, which I will be reading this year. I will be finishing that book if it kills me. If that's the only thing I read in October, that and this, I will be pleased. Yeah, so many things, all of the things. We know I have too many books. I have not enough time to read all of the books, and I've been in a reading slump, so it's fine. It's fine. But anyways, yeah, so that is everything for this question tag check-in for the year. I hope you guys enjoyed. I would love to know what you guys are looking forward to for the second half of the year. How is it already July? I don't know, but it's fine. But anyways, like I said, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Give it a thumbs up if you liked it, subscribe to see more of my face, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye!